I've always liked how BoJack Horseman dismantles the specific kind of damage caused by those reveling in their own narcissism. On a fundamental level, we're dealing with a series that not only implicates us into the characters' neuroses, but in doing so compels us to engage with their obsessive, retrospective justifications of behavior that demands condemnation. But BoJack Horseman, from the very first episode, invites us in with deceptive specificity, offering a comical exploration of mental illness and psychological doctrines that offer some sort of embracing of the moral lack. BoJack's medium, the very vehicle which drives the idiosyncratic messages of indulgence, addiction, and immorality, is itself a Trojan horse, pun intended, meant to lull us into a state of comfort for the familiar while satisfying our need for comical adherence, tongue twisters, bad jokes, side gags, and cultural references until it peels off the band-aid. It was funny when the horse would start drinking in season 1, but why was it painful to watch in the final season, even though the BoJack from the last season wasn't really all that different from the BoJack in the first season. He was just more sensitive to his place in the world and in the lives of those around him, because it was at this point that the show decided to temper some of its wit and humor and redirect our attention to the characters' ruminations, their struggles, and force them to confront their compulsions without the filter of a world that is inherently kind of silly.
Diane, looking good.
Thanks.
No, not you. I was talking to Diane.
Oh, thank you.
Now, where's my peanut butter?
Right over here, Q.
No, I'm looking for peanut butter.
Oh, you mean BoJack?
If I wanted BoJack, I would call BoJack.
Did someone call for BoJack?
BoJack has a fixation with the past. It pervades a lot of his story. From his obsession with rewatching Horsing Around, he took care of Sarah Lynn briefly because she represented a past that he couldn't remove himself from. More than that, he uses his past as justification for his own behavior. His relationship with substance abuse is framed through the lens of his relationship with his father, and how Butterscotch offered him alcohol as a way to avoid dealing with the fact that his son witnessed his infidelity, instilling in BoJack a tendency to avoid confronting his own problems by drinking them away. Nestled here is a confluence of excess, indulgence, and loneliness, all stemming from an idealization of vices that are inherently unhealthy. BoJack's fame is a conterminous representation of losing oneself in an identity that justifies immorality while fetishizing misery, creating a sort of loop between that misery and his rejecting said misery by engaging in amoral or problematic behavior, the result of which makes him even more miserable, and so it goes. Diane idealized her own misery to the point where she justified its existence by making it a part of her identity, and because of the chronic failure of her familial relations, she sought to find a reason behind the breaking down of that structure. Princess Carolyn understood the conditions of her misery, but just like her relationship with BoJack, there was something she could never remove herself from. The work she gave her life to was never kind to her. It took much more than it gave. But what she did was who she was, always trying to fix people and mend their problems while justifying their toxicity even when that kindness is undeserved and in service of her own self-worth. The ambivalence of adult social culture permeates the characters' interpersonal relationships, more so in the Hollywood cultural exchanges from which we view these ambiguities. When Diane decided to have an abortion, it led to a series of events which ignited a debate on choice and responsibility. Even though women's reproductive rights are framed as a choice, the societal lengths they have to go make it seem like that choice has already been made without her. Through Christina Aquafina, she witnesses the choice she was making for herself being taken and analyzed by a world that never has to make that choice. She is forced to go along with the stunt by those above her like PC and Christina, which comments on how women are forced to make decisions that benefit everyone but themselves.
Drop
Brop, pew, pew. A daring battle cry from the self-appointed new voice of choice. But has the concept of women having choices gone too far?
I hate everything about myself, and so I like watching a show about people who hate everything about themselves. And rest assured, this will not be the last video on the subject. If you liked the video, please stick around and subscribe, share if you want, and if you don't, that's fine too. So thank you for watching.